This VAWatchdog.org news video is brought to you by Bergman & Moore, LLC. Former VA attorneys now fighting VA for you. Call Bergman & Moore at 877-838-2889 or on the web at vetlawyers.com.
American troops continue to fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. The stress of war is taking a greater and greater toll. A study out today shows 300,000 combat veterans suffer from symptoms of post-traumatic stress or major depression or both. That's nearly 1 out of every 5 who served in those 2 wars. And many say the government is simply not doing enough. Here's Kimberly Dozier.
22-year-old combat medic Jonathan Norell volunteered for every mission during his year in Iraq. Bombed, ambushed, treating wounded under fire. The memories still haunt him.
Things that affected me most weren't the IEDs, which I went through 6 or 7, and all the firefights and just the combat. It wasn't so much that, it was the psychological stuff, the people, that I failed to help.
By the time he came off his tour of duty, he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, sleeplessness, and flashbacks. Military doctors recommended immediate discharge and treatment, but the Army command refused. Instead, they forced him into combat training exercises. He turned to drugs and alcohol.
I just lost it. I didn't want to do it anymore.
So the Army he served so well in Iraq threatened to expel him without medical benefits. Norell's case reveals the showdown inside the military between the new school and the old school view on how to handle PTSD, one of the signature injuries of the Iraq and Afghan wars.
What do you guys got? Roger, stand by, stand by.
And experts warn there's a storm coming, a generation of soldiers coming home with post-traumatic stress disorder. CBS News has been given documents showing more than 100,000 vets of the Iraq and Afghan wars are seeking help for mental health disorders. Norell decided to fight back by reaching out to veterans groups and advocates like Carissa Picard, whose husband leaves for Iraq in June.
Our soldiers didn't choose to wage this war. They didn't choose to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. We've sent them there. We need to take responsibility for what happens to them.
It took months of meetings, emails, and phone calls, lobbying congressmen and the top levels of the Pentagon before Norell finally got help here at Fort Hood. We asked the man in charge of treatment why it took so long.
The field commander recognizes the soldier has a problem, and they request the soldier to come to the Warrior Transition Unit.
Now, that sounds great, but we know in this situation, for several months, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. I think there are lessons from this case that can help us all as we move forward.
CBS News has learned that top Pentagon officials have made visits to bases across the country. They're telling Army commanders to take their doctors' diagnoses more seriously and get the troops treatment.
Norell hopes that by speaking out,
Hopefully what happened to me doesn't happen to any more soldiers,
other troops won't have to fight so hard to get the help they need. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Fort Hood, Texas.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about post-traumatic stress disorder, you can go to cbsnews.com and click on CBS Evening News for a list of warning signs and resources for getting help.
VAWatchdog.org, the nation's #1 independent veterans website. On the web at VAWatchdog.org.